Our class is 24 people, including Professor Green. If our class is representative of the US population aged 20 to 60, based on the recent statistics from the CDC, 17 of us would be overweight, 10 of us would be obese, and one of us would be severely obese. 9 of us would have diagnosed high cholesterol, 8 of us would have diagnosed hypertension, and more than half of us would prematurely die from an obesity-related condition. One important step we can take to improve our health and reduce our risk of chronic disease is to switch to a plant-based diet. This past term, I took Nursing 383 on health and aging, and there was an overwhelming amount of medical research that promotes plant-based eating. So in January, I started limiting my intake of animal-based food, and I saw immediate health improvements. I had lowered cholesterol and lower blood pressure. I chose this topic not only to persuade all of you, but also to persuade myself to go completely plant-based. Today, I'm going to talk about the problems caused by the standard Western diet, then how to adopt a plant-based diet. And lastly, I'm going to show you the positive benefits if you decide to switch to a plant-based diet. I'll begin by telling you about the problem with Western diets. The standard Western diet is high in processed and animal food, which is nutritionally problematic. Processed and animal foods have been linked to a range of chronic disease. According to a 2024 article by Amy Welsh and colleagues from the European Society of Cardiology, obesity is a chronic inflammatory condition that is a major risk factor for many of the global disease. A 2023 study by McGill University's School of Human Nutrition investigated the relationship between specific dietary patterns and obesity outcomes. Findings showed that a higher meat and animal-based product intake had a positive association with obesity outcomes. In a 2022 article published in the American Journal of Cardiology, Dr. Sarah Hull and colleagues from the Yale School of Medicine cite research that animal-based foods promote oxidative stress, endothelial injury, and inflammation, which underlie chronic disease. The article also discusses how animal-based food doesn't have fiber, which is an important nutrient that 95% of Americans are deficient. Fiber has also shown to reduce our risk for cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Although chronic disease is currently the leading cause of death in the United States, research shows that they are preventable. I opened this speech with statistics that showed how extensive the problem is and how it has the potential to affect each one of us. But there's hope. In the 2018 article published in the Permanent Journal, Dr. Balaz Bodai and colleagues maintain that more than 80% of chronic diseases are preventable if you adopt healthy lifestyle recommendations. Now that you understand the problems associated with the standard Western diet, I want to introduce a way of eating that is associated with positive health outcomes. Unlike the Western diet, whole plant food nutrition has shown to have positive health benefits and reduce the risk of chronic disease. Plant-based diets prioritize nutrient-dense plant foods while minimizing processed and animal foods. Over the years, plant-based diet has become an umbrella term. There are vegans, vegetarians, pescatarians, and the list goes on and on. But I want you to focus on these diets at their most basic level. They encourage whole foods, which are natural foods that are not heavily processed and food that comes from plants. There are 5 major food groups: fruit, vegetables, tubers, whole grains, and legumes. Nutritional biochemist Dr. Thomas Colin Campbell has studied the relationship between diet and disease for over 60 years, and he is considered the patriarch of the whole food plant-based diet. In his 2018 TED Talk at Cornell University, he explains how The consumption of animal protein activates cancer and other chronic disease processes. Then he proves how whole plant food nutrition treats, prevents, and cures a wide array of disease and illness. Based on my research, I propose that everyone consider adopting a plant-based diet because there are significant health advantages when compared to other diets. Many different studies support Dr. Campbell's research that whole plant food nutrition reduces the risk for chronic disease. In a 2024 Time magazine article, author Jeremy Ducharme discusses a 2023 Stanford study that shows that anyone choosing a plant-based diet can improve their long-term health in 2 months or less. In a 2024 cross-sectional study, Anna Bruns and other nutrition scientists from Leibowitz University in Germany investigated the relationship between plant-based diets and cardiovascular disease. They compared measurements in 32 flexitarians, 33 vegans, and 29 omnivores. To clarify, flexitarians eat mostly plant-based foods with the occasional consumption of meat. Vegans are on a strict plant-based diet, and omnivores eat both plant and animal foods. The findings showed that vegans had the most favorable results, while flexitarians had more beneficial levels of insulin, triglycerides, and LDL cholesterol when compared to omnivores. Some people think that plant-based diets are just another fad diet we've seen in the past. This is because our healthcare system is failing us. All doctors should be prescribing a whole food plant-based diet over harmful medications. At the beginning of Dr. Campbell's TED Talk, he points out that there's not a medical school in the country that teaches nutrition. This is problematic because it reinforces a healthcare system that prioritizes pharmaceutical and surgical interventions when it's our nutrition that is making us sick, and with the proper guidance, it is our nutrition that can make us better. I'm sure you can see how switching to a plant-based diet reduces the risk for chronic disease. Now I would like for you all to think about your 5-year plan. Moving to a plant-based diet has so many benefits, while staying on a Western diet has deadly consequences. Imagine yourself 5 years from now following a whole food plant-based diet. You go to your primary care physician once a year for an annual checkup where you're weighed, they take your blood pressure, your heart rate, and you're out the door in 15 minutes with a clean bill of health. The other 364 days of the year are yours to focus on your family, friends, and whatever else you want to accomplish. Or you could continue on the standard Western diet and you have 4 different doctors because you are overweight with gut issues, inflammation, high blood pressure, and hypertension. Even worse, your family is constantly worrying about whether you're going to have a heart attack. The health advantages of plant-based eating far outweigh the initial discomfort of transitioning away from the unhealthy Western diet. Like I mentioned, the benefits of this change are drastic and come in the form of everything we value. More time with our family and friends, and less time worrying about whether our health is going to limit that time. As you can see, adopting a plant-based diet may be one of the most important choices you ever make for you and your family. I've told you about the health problems caused by the standard Western diet, how adopting plant-based diet prevents these problems, and finally, how you and your family benefit from this shift to plant-based eating. So I think it's time that we take that step toward a more plant-based diet to improve our health and reduce our risk of chronic disease. I challenge all of you today to begin your journey toward more plant-based eating. That step may look different for everyone because changing food habits is a process. After today, I am making a promise to myself and my family that I'm going completely plant-based because I have too much to live for to become a part of the 50% of people who prematurely die from a preventable chronic condition.